What we saw, those things, whatever the hell they were, I never seem able to let go of the incident. Well, I'm a geologist for the United States government's Federal Geological Division. My job requires a tremendous amount of time researching the Earth, mostly its surface and beneath it. For a while, I was researching Arctic rock formations which weren't too interesting. However, I was given a new assignment to research the outer core, which made me laugh as if it was some sort of prank. Now, I wish it was a prank. What was strange was how I was notified. Only the best geologists in the world were assigned this, and I was one of them, as I've done extensive research for quite some time on the Earth's structures. Instead of gathering at my local research site, I was instructed to visit a site that was 8 hours away. I decided to pack up some clothes and materials for the journey, as I suspected that it was a big project. Almost on the verge of passing out on the wheel, I finally was able to reach the site after the long ride. What was shocking about this site was how massive it was. Hell, the building was so big that it could very well be its own country. As I drove to the security entrance, I was surprised by there not being any security at the checkpoint. Usually, there would be a checkpoint, and for this place you'd expect it to have high security. But as I was thinking this, my thought was interrupted by the silhouette of an individual dressed in a suit, which I presumed was the man leading the project. He signaled me to stop my vehicle and get out of the car. I stepped out to be warmly greeted by this man who was wearing an all-black suit and a red tie with dark, straight hair, cold, menacing blue eyes, and a grin void of any honesty whatsoever. "Greetings, Dr. Rutledge. We're happy you could make it on such short notice. It's an honor to meet you. Your work on Earth structures and seismic activity was simultaneously fascinating and brilliant. Such brilliance cannot be ignored. Hence, I invited you here to participate in an important project," the man said with a raspy voice sounding similar to the voice of a burned-out college professor. "Well, thank you. The drive was very long, so I'm a bit tired. I was wondering where a hotel would be." The man gave a hesitant look, but then immediately responded, Don't worry about that. We have sleeping quarters in the building to accommodate your needs. If you need to take a rest, then feel free to do so. I can walk you towards the sleeping quarters." I nodded and thanked him for his offer, and then walked towards the eerie building. As we approached the outside lights, I was able to make out that we were walking in an empty parking area, which led to an entrance to the building. The entrance was a white tunnel lacking any form of life or light, which gave me the chills. "So, sir, I have a few questions for you. Who are you exactly? Why did you invite me here? And what is my compensation for my work?" I spoke in a shaky tone as this man gave me serious. "I'm going to kill you in your sleep vibes." "Oh yes, I do apologize for not informing you on those things. To answer your questions, I'm the Chief Presiding Director of the Federal Geological Division in this fine country of ours. They call me Dear Hayes McDuffie, or more colloquially, the Director. I'm the guy responsible for overseeing geological research trials at the federal level. My organization and I invited you and other scientists here because our present ongoing trial requires a great deal of geological knowledge that concerns the Earth's structures. As you have done extensive research on whole Earth geology, I invited you to help with this project. I needed more manpower for this project than I've been trying to work on for a while. This project brought interest to me because I noticed the strange activity occurring around the mantle. Now for your compensation. We are willing to award you double the usual compensation you get. This will be challenging, so we won't neglect the work you put into it. Please understand this. I nodded, and then we continued along the dark parking lot until we finally reached the dark, white tunnel. McDuffie paused in his movements as he was waiting for something, I presumed. After a few minutes of this, McDuffie resumed walking into the tunnel, which prompted me to follow along with him. Once more, things were silent, my surroundings were dark, and time was non-existent. I was using the last bit of energy I had while trying to keep up with McDuffie's almost mechanical pacing. Even when I tried to take a rest, he continued along with his pace. Everything just felt so off, but I just tried to ignore it with the thought of the compensation I was getting. What felt like hours later, I was finally able to see the presence of a faint light ahead of me. All right then, we are here. That light is where the sleeping quarters are. After your rest, we will start on the project, so please get some sleep. I noted the details of the sleeping quarters. What was shocking about them was their appearance, which looked more like isolation chambers than sleeping rooms. McDuffie and I passed several other metal chambers labeled with numbers, which could only be seen by the faint light in the center of the room. We halted near the one labeled 255, and McDuffie began fiddling with the keys like a frantic loon. After some effort, he got the door unlocked, revealing its inside habitat. The room was plain-looking, having a single bed with the primitive pillow and sheet layout and a toilet beside it. I was hesitant upon witnessing the shady picture. Good night, Routledge. I will see you in the morning. The next morning, I was awoken quite suddenly from a thunderous knock at the door. "Wake up, Routledge," the voice cheerfully announced. "Breakfast is prepared for you." I rubbed my eyes and put on my shoes. I couldn't tell the time without any windows in the facility. The chamber door opened to reveal a tall, dark-colored man with a sturdy physique, a frowning look and teeth shining with metal. He appeared apathetic and devoid of any joy whatsoever. He gestured to me to follow him to the eating quarters, and so I proceeded along with him towards a thick, green door with the words "Eating Quarters" labeled on it. Well, good morning, Routledge. I see you've gotten a good amount of sleep. Let's sit down and talk about our plans over some breakfast." I sat by one of the tables, which resembled the ones at the cafeteria at my local geological facility. We adjusted ourselves and indulged in small chit-chat until breakfast was served by the head chef. I was somewhat surprised. Despite the shitty conditions of my bunk, the breakfast was rather splendid, getting served 2 strips of warm, roasted cinnamon bacon alongside 4 circular waffles of uniform size, a modest dash of scrambled and over-easy eggs, and fresh French toast. McDuffie instead requested a few strips of bacon and a cup of strong black Italian coffee. Routledge, I shall discuss the importance of this project, so you become more familiar with the intent I have. As I said before, this became of interest to me, and the Geological Division due to its very nature. Allegedly, reports were dispatched to my colleagues concerning supposed noises being detected near the mantle. I decided to take it upon myself to investigate these reports and only unearthed odd sound waves, but no recorded audio, unfortunately. I intend for you to gather an audio sample, since you have more experience in this field of research than myself. If you were able to succeed, then these reports may finally be put to rest. The director's words made me more invested in this issue. I recalled a similar case, which ended with the conclusion that it was a natural phenomenon. Frankly, I found faults in this answer, but I couldn't follow up on that lead because of a message sent to me by the Geological Division's director. Weird. McDuffie, I agree to follow up on this job. I think this may provide us with some interesting results. The bastard smiled in his usual dishonest grin and stood up and signaled me his way to the door opposite the door. I entered the cafeteria. We walked out into a narrow white corridor leading towards another door. McDuffie unlocked the door, revealing an enormous hole smack dab in the middle of the room. Hundreds of computers, network towers, and equipment were scattered around the room. So this is where all of your work will be done. I've already prepared the necessary equipment for you. Now go get started on it as soon as possible. Nodding gingerly, I posed the man a bold question. Director, sir. Exactly how complete is this project anyways? Well, you simply need to send equipment down the hole safely. Following that, gather both graphical and audio data and dispatch it to my colleagues. I'll give you their contacts. If successfully done in a swift manner, I shall send you on your way with your compensation. No further questions asked. I spent most of today's shift mapping the path and waypoints to the mantle. A drone with audio recording capabilities would have to be made for this operation, but had to be fully working in a matter of hours to meet our deadline. My colleagues and I would be incinerated by McDuffie if we weren't punctual. Hours later, my colleagues and I were finally able to get the drone up and running in perfect working order through some daunting trial and error. Amid our short-lived milestone, I opted to notify the director about our current progress. He was nearby during this time, which made things convenient. I vividly remember McDuffie's cold, sober visage turned into a colorful theatrical performance, something I found quite amusing yet off-putting, oddly enough. I'll be damned. What miraculous work, Routledge. Thanks a ton for your assistance. Greatly appreciated. Now go get a move on it. Start sending the son of a bitch down. My team and I want closure at this ripe time of ours. Let us pray to God himself that this turns out to bring home the bacon. I set up the drone and positioned it at the excavation spot in the mantle's direction. It wasn't long until we launched the mission and it went underground. The drone eventually did pick up the crucial graphical and audio data we needed. It arrived in close proximity to the area where the disturbance reportedly originated. McDuffie and I tensely awaited for further data, but it wasn't long until the silence abruptly broke before our very eyes. There was a notably steep trend in the graphical data. Therefore, I had no choice but to switch on the radio instrument, just in case we didn't miss any audio data. Upon doing so, something not of this world capriced the directors and my expressions into widened bug eyes with unshut mouths. What could only be described as a mesh of thunderous, crunching noises, low-pitched, menacing groans, and sounds of intense licking was, to all of us in the room, something very distant from either man or animal. McDuffie and I couldn't shut down the transmission. We were in complete and utter shock and stood there like fools, mortified by the chaotic graphical data and terrifying screeches coming far below us. To make matters even more bizarre, the computer collecting our data unexpectedly crashed, resulting in the loss of our precious data we worked so hard to procure. McDuffie's dream was shattered. I was merely terrified of the entire incident. Intense disappointment, anger, and distraught ravaged the minds and souls of us too. Fuck, it's all over and all lost. All we found in this is that the noises do exist, but we have no one to prove this to. God damn it, we were so fucking close. Fuck, yelled the director, angry and embittered. Nonetheless, McDuffie still sent me off with my compensation as agreed upon, which was good enough for me. I then began driving in the direction to my house. However, I was consumed by the horrific image. I bore witness to back there once I merged into the public traffic. What the hell kind of mindfuck was that anyways? What the hell kind of beast would one even classify it under? Should I report McDuffie to my superiors for his shady motives? Is working for that con man really worth it that much to you?